Hello, my name is William Mwembe, welcoming you to this week's edition of the program Business Time. It's a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. And in the program today, we look at effect of the gap between the rich and the poor in as far as prospects for economic growth is concerned. And also in the program, Malawi moves up on the innovative radar. We have these and other stories. Stay tuned if you could. Hello and welcome. In our main story in the program today, for quite some time, Malawi has been ranked among poorest countries in the world. It has been vying in the categories of war-torn countries, in as far as the category of least developed countries is concerned. And the gap between the rich and the poor in the country seems to remain wide, despite a slight improvement between 2017 and 2020. This is according to a recent report by the National Statistical Office. But the tough question is, what is the country doing to ensure that the gap is narrowed? This 1.5 kilometer stretch does not only demarcate Nyambadu Township from Chinseu area in Blantyre. It could be seen as a symbol of economic inequality in Malawi. A narrow look to the left portrays a life so smooth, where the majority live above the poverty line of $1.90 a day. But on the right side, the narrative is totally different.
I am a motorbike mechanic. I came in town and started work as a guard. But now I am not working. Our major concern is that we are unable to afford the basic needs like food because the cost of living is high.
Chirambo forms part of slightly over half of the 18 million Malawians living in poverty, of whom 20.5% are living in extreme poverty. The gap between the rich and the poor remains wide in the country, albeit slightly improving in the past half a decade. According to an analysis by the National Statistical Office, as portrayed in the 2020 poverty report issued last week, the degree of inequality declined to 0.379 in the 2019-2020 financial year from 0.423 in the 2016-2017 financial year. But experts declare the pace as too slow. Bechani Cheleni is an economist at the Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences.
It starts from opportunities. Let's not just look at the inequality in terms of income, but let's also look at the inequality in terms of opportunities. You find that in opportunities for jobs, opportunities for loans, opportunities for maybe education, these opportunities are actually for the very few. Let's look at the way the education sector is right now. If you have money, you send people to high quality schools. So your kids will be likely to go to universities. So, which means that families which have always gone to the university, they'll continue to go to the university. But if you don't have money, you are some poor farmer somewhere, you send your kids to an LEA school and then they'll go to this other, maybe it's a community secondary school. Their chances of making it to the university will be very, very low. So intergenerationally, those families will continue to be poor.
Now, while the gap between the rich and the poor remains wide, Malawi is attempting to what it calls create wealth for all through the recently launched long-term development plan, the Malawi 2063. Are we anywhere near creating wealth for all as a country?
Creating wealth is a very important thing, because that's one thing that many of us as Malawians, we don't understand. And it takes time. It takes resources to create wealth. It takes resources for you to create more wealth. It takes money for you to create more money. So we are not yet there, but we are getting somewhere. NIF, it needs to change in a way that it operates. Because, for example, if a young man or a young woman is going to receive 500,000 kwacha today or 1 million kwacha today for them to boost or start their business, and the NIF expects them to pay back within a month or so, they must have started to pay back. One question would be, when have they created the wealth? And if those loans, they are going to go more towards women or young women, then there we are going to be narrowing that gap. And as we're narrowing the gap, we are going to be getting somewhere in terms of wealth creation. So let's encourage, mindset change has been talked as an enabler that is going to help us to achieve this vision. But we need to do more. The mindset change, yes, we have done a lot of lectures, we've done that. We need to do more than the lectures now.
Malawi aspires to become a lower middle income economy by 2030, according to the Malawi 2063, a long-term national development blueprint. Thematic in the plan is an inspiration to create wealth for all. But another economist, Donasius Patera, feels if not addressed hastily, the inequalities could lead to worsening levels of poverty and propel conflict between the rich and the poor.
In a country where you have the poverty line is big, usually the inequality is also high. That's an automatic thing in normal circumstances. The gap between the rich and the poor will continue to be there if there want to be some kind of transformation changes, adjustments in which the government needs to employ. For example, how would you make poor people to go to school? What are some of the criteria? For example, if you look at most of the things, the basic needs that we need, school, if you are going to observe that there are some people who can be selected to go to secondary school, but they cannot afford to go there. That means only people who are coming from rich families, children who are coming from rich families, they are going to access the education. So these adjustments that we are having, the reform that we are having, we can sanitize like the government institutions, having proper institutions, the strong institution, putting the funds there and ensure that they are strong. If you have got a strong institutions in a country, the chances are there that you can reduce the inequality because the institutions themselves, they regulate them by themselves. But if the institutions that you have, they are not well funded, it will be difficult for the poor now to have access to the equality, the services that they need.
Speaking at the launch of the report, Vice President Salos Chilima, who is also Minister of Economic Planning and Development and Public Sector Reforms, reiterated the need for Malawi to change the narrative from poverty reduction to creating wealth for all. Now, amid the growing poverty levels recorded in the country, Malawi seems to have made some headways in other areas. For instance, the recent World Intellectual Property Report positions Malawi among top 3 innovative countries in the category of low-income earning economies. What does this mean for the future of the economy? This is a question our journalist Yamigan Kajaja attempts in this report.
According to a report published by the organization, the information and communication technology sector in most economies developed measures to contain the pandemic and its fallout. Areas such as ICT hardware, software, pharmaceuticals, and biotechnology were accelerated as well. In an interview, ICT Association of Malawi, ICTAM, Vice President Andrew Kasasi says there has been an increase in innovative ideas in the country as a result of the pandemic.
I'll start with the Kadziwe e-learning. This is a platform which came about during this pandemic to allow students to learn from their homes. So you subscribe, as you do with any learning platform, and you get local syllabus. It was locally developed, so we've got the Malawian syllabus here, so to say. We also have some innovations which we noted from, let's say, Spark systems. This pandemic, most companies were working from home. So they introduced a few systems. There's one they call a customer portal. Their customers would log any person to actually say would log in the portal asking for different service. That we also have something from our major players who have got GNM. There's a student bundle. I think you may be aware of it. That students have to learn online, but now data is a little bit a challenge for students. So they have introduced specialists to enable that. We have also seen MRA payment of taxes. So a number of them, we have seen banks coming up with solutions like say Standard Bank, whereby you can open an account. You don't have to go to the bank. You can get a loan through the app. You don't have to go to the bank. So all these, we have seen a lot of initiatives during this pandemic.
Business Computer Services Limited, Business Development Manager Chimwemwe Chimwaza, weighs in his views.
Looking at how things have gone in recent times, I think in general, even outside the pandemic, in Malawi, there has been that realization that IT can play a key role in helping an organization achieve its strategic goals. And that awareness, I think it was there even before the pandemic, but that awareness has grown with the pandemic. There's much more which can be done. I think part of the things are already being done. One of the things which is helping us to make improvements is getting locally skilled personnel to handle these solutions, which are to develop as well as to handle the solutions which are able to provide such.
The growth of the ICT sector is crucial for Malawi's economic development, as a well-established digital economy could lead to job creations, as well as help lower social and economic transactions for firms. According to the latest World Bank Economic Monitor, Malawi's low levels of electricity access, high internet prices, unpredictable connectivity, high cost of smart devices, and lack of digital skills hinder a potential of $189 million GDP and $33 million in tax revenues per year.
Remember, this is Business Time. It's a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Business Time, a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. Moving on with the program, Malawi remains an agrarian economy. Top export crops include tobacco, coffee, tea, and sugar. Now, there is need for the country to develop some mechanisms that would help propel growth of production in the various sectors of the economy, including the agriculture sector. One of which is investing in high technology to ensure that both revenue and output in the agriculture sector is seen growing. One of the key sectors is agriculture, as already alluded to, and tea remains one of the most competitive crops where if necessary effort and resources are deployed, would make the most of the existing international market. Recently, players in the sector developed a new technology, drone system, to ensure that they are able to track the production of the commodity. Our journalist Chimwemwe Mangazi has the whole story.
TRFCA Director Jonathan Kumbira said most companies use airplanes to apply fertilizers in tea fields and some is wasted. He says the use of drone technology is a secure way as the fertilizer is only applied on the crop.
Cost is basically, you cannot run away from cost. The initial cost might be high to invest into those technologies, but subsequently you reduce your costs because you're reducing on the need for labor, which you can use in other operations. And also you are increasing your efficiency in application, like the two technologies can apply the inputs within a short time. The drone can apply a hectare within 10 minutes, which all other technologies may not, except use of an airplane that has been used widely in the tea industry. But the airplane is more costlier compared to using a drone. And the airplane is more wasteful because you can apply on the roads, in the rivers, and also on houses, while the drone would actually apply specifically to the field. So that's why you benefit, because now you're improving efficiency, despite that initial cost might be high.
Group Agriculture Systems Manager for Farming and Engineering Services, Gavin Taylor, says the cost of the technology varies depending on the size.
This technology is really drone agricultural spraying applications. What we are using is the DJI version of the drone. Currently as FES we've got the T16s, the T30, T20s, and we've got T30s that are on order. The T16 can carry a 16 kilogram payload or 16 liters, and the T20 can do a 20 liter payload. This allows us to spray either pesticide, herbicide, or even fertilizer application at about 1 hectare per flight, which takes about 10 minutes. So yeah, with a fleet of drones, you can cover large areas in a day, and it's very effective in actually getting the chemical to the crop or to the ground. The turbulence caused by the propellers of the drones causes a vortex that then really agitates the air and gets the chemical to contact with the plant. We spray it at a higher concentration of chemical, so lower volumes of water. We find that it's a lot more efficient and more effective and precise when applying your herbicides and your chemicals. So it's better for the environment. They are electric, so there's no diesel or any carbon-based fossil fuels that are used in flying. So it's an electric option. Yeah.
Currently, the technology is being used in sugarcane plantations in Chikwawa.
Meanwhile, a local firm says it has secured a $2 million loan for setting up of a fertilizer making company in the country. This is coming at a time the country is grappling to import fertilizer, as the cost of fertilizer seem to be on the higher side, both on the international and local scenes. Mainly on the local scene, it's because of the rising cost of transportation. Now, the coming in of a new fertilizer company would help ease the pressure that the country faces as it remains an agrarian economy. Justin Kweu has a report.
According to Shire Fertilizer's business development manager, Noah Nyirenda, the firm is waiting for an international consultant to map the setting up of the factory. He added that the plant would take 1 year and that it would have the capacity to produce 100,000 metric tons of fertilizer per year, creating 300 direct jobs at its beginning. Nyirenda said this will have a huge impact on prices of fertilizer in the country because fertilizer is not that expensive, but sea and rail transport is what makes it expensive. But Nyirenda could not give more details on the loan facility. The development comes at a time the country is looking for strategies to ease pressure on the agriculture sector emanating from high prices of fertilizer, which have increased by between 50 and 70% within a year. The rise in prices of fertilizer posed a threat to government flagship Affordable Inputs Program, as in a move to maintain the number of beneficiaries, the government has increased the price of fertilizer to 7,500 kwacha per 50 kg bag from 4,495 kwacha last year. Currently, a 50 kg bag of NPK and urea fertilizers is being sold at 38,000 kwacha, which is 73% higher than last year, and International Food Policy and Research Institute has warned that the prices are likely to continue skyrocketing. A recent report from agricultural research think tank Mapata Institute on the price of fertilizer indicated that in a long term, the country needed to have its own fertilizer manufacturing plants if it were to control prices, which are largely influenced by external pressure. If the company materializes, it can feed up to 40% of government's AIP, as about 270 metric tons of fertilizer were sold to farmers during last year's farming season. Farmers Union of Malawi President Frighton Jolomore welcomed the development, saying the government should extend a hand to such firms so that the process is expedited and Malawians start enjoying the fruits. He added that while they are happy and emphasized that these are the developments they need, he urged government that through parliament it should pass the fertilizer bill so that there is enough regulation to promote quality. National Planning Commission communications specialist Tom Kanje said the project was in line with Malawi 2063 agenda, a blueprint for Malawi to become a wealthy and self-reliant nation. Kanje said setting up the plant guarantees the company of high returns since the demand for fertilizer is there in the country, but they can also export it for foreign exchange generation. He added that there is a need for the private sector to take up its part rather than waiting for government to implement all development projects.
Indeed, as National Planning Commission, we are pleased to hear that there are investors, local, here, who are interested in setting up a fertilizer manufacturing plant in Malawi. That's a very welcome development, and is fully in line with the Malawi 2063 vision, which promotes not just inclusive wealth creation, but also self-reliance for Malawi. And self-reliance means that we should be able to produce most of the key commodities we require in the country. And you agree with me that fertilizer is one of the crops, is one of the commodities that is widely used in Malawi. It's a huge crop. It's a huge commodity that is used by farmers, both commercial and smallholder. And us starting producing our own fertilizer means we are making ourselves self-reliant on fertilizer. But also, just setting up a fertilizer manufacturing plant supports actually all the three pillars of the Malawi 2063. First of all, the pillar of agriculture, productivity and commercialization, because by producing fertilizer locally, that means it will be easily available, it will also be affordable, and that it will improve productivity of our agriculture. It also support the pillar of industrialization, because we are setting up a factory that will employ people, that will produce a key commodity locally, that will generate jobs, pay taxes, and the likes. So it also supports the pillar of industrialization, and also under industrialization, also mining, because fertilizer needs some raw materials that are mineral in nature, for example, potassium, nitrate, and the likes. This will create an opportunity for some investors to invest in the production of those minerals in the country. So it's also support the mining sub-pillar of the industrialization pillar. Thirdly, it will support the urbanization pillar. Setting up a factory, although it may be in Ilongo or in Blantyre, but the raw materials will be coming from the mines in the rural areas. That means wherever the materials are coming from, there'll be a new industry setting up that could support the urbanization of that area based on an economic activity. So it's a very welcome development, and would like to encourage more private investors to come forward, not just for fertilizer, but also look at areas such as, for example, issues like pharmaceuticals, because we also use a lot of pharmaceuticals in Malawi, and these come from outside the country, but also issues of, for example, producing ethanol, because fuel is another huge commodity that drains our foreign exchange. So if we can explore the use of ethanol as a fuel, we can save a lot of foreign exchange that is currently used in importing petroleum. That is part of it. So that some of it may be 50%, 40%, 60% blend of petrol and ethanol could go a long way in saving foreign exchange the country spends, but also creating local jobs, but also supporting government in terms of revenue generation.
The company will be sourcing most raw materials locally.
Well, that story also brings us to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time. It's a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. Always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Bye for now. Stay safe.